What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissim, and today's episode is part two of our discussion with Andy Panko. So, if you haven't watched last week, go back and watch that first discussion that we had with Andy Panko. He's one of the leading voices in our industry and just a great guy to sit down and talk to. We think you're going to really enjoy that conversation. Now, today in part two, we start talking to Andy about what if I want to go out and work at an RIA? How do I do that? What if I want to start my own thing? How do I get my own clients? How do I talk to those clients? What do I talk to them about? Andy gives us this really, really amazing insight to the process that he used and what advice he has for you if you're looking to go down the RIA route. You've taken the CFP, maybe you're using the CFP as the key to getting into that world. This episode is for you. As always, we have a bunch of special offers right underneath of this video. Our Q Bank is right underneath on a 7-day money back guarantee. You don't like it for any reason, send it right back. It is right underneath here. If you want to chat with me and you want to talk about potentially some one-on-one tutoring or joining one of our classes that we talk about in these videos all the time, please click on the assessment link right underneath this video and let's make your next attempt your last.
What would you say, like, you looking back at it, what would you tell these students? Be like, hey, if you're stuck at this, if you want to do this, here's the roadmap basically for you.
I think the first decision is, do you want to be an employee somewhere else or go on your own? Now, going on your own is not for everyone. You'll often hear survivorship bias of like those who've made it are the ones who are frequently on podcasts and talking about what worked and et cetera, et cetera. For every one of those, I'm just making this up, probably 5 or 10 other advisors behind the scenes that tried to start their own thing 1 year, 2 years in, just like, this isn't working, or I hate it, or I don't want to run a business. And they'd gladly go work as an employee advisor somewhere else. So you kind of have to start with that. Now, I can't tell you what the right decision is for the students and everyone listening. I think you know yourself and be honest with yourself about what resonates with you, pros and cons to each. But you get CFP, and I guess I'll speak more toward, you do go out on your own just because that's the path I took. There's no guaranteed formula to success. Like, there's things you can do to better your chances, take away some of the barriers or roadblocks, like getting the CFP. That alone won't have people beating down your door saying, "Oh my God, you're a CFP, let me hire you." But it helps, right? That's a leg up compared to someone who doesn't have it, for example. Knowledge and experience, whatever it may be. If you're 6 months out of college, you're going to struggle to find clients to take you serious, to build a business, because, like, dude, you're 22, what do you know? Especially someone who's 60, right? There is age bias, right or wrong, there's age bias in that regard. So if you're 22, want to start a business, like, it's probably not going to work. You're 30 plus, like, okay, like, now people might take it a little more seriously because you have some life experience, you have some professional experience. So that's another consideration. The business you want to do and who you want to serve, is it feasible? Do you have a niche? You like the idea of a niche or specialization, but it's so tightly defined and focused that there's only 17 people in this country who meet that criteria. You grossly limited your potential candidate pool because you're not going to get all 17 of those as clients. Maybe you get 1 or 2, right? So you have to think about, like, who you want to serve, what you want to do. Is it a feasible market, et cetera? More generically, I'd say if you got those figured out and you're in a good enough position with your age and with your experience, you have a feasible market and whatever, I think there's a few sort of general things that help. One is, you obviously have to be good at the technical stuff. That's basic table stakes. You need to actually be good at planning. If you're going to be running a business, also like the operations aspect and business running aspect. If not, you're going to fail. But again, that's basic table stakes. So let's assume everyone out there is also good at planning. Everyone else has a CFP, let's say. They all have a decent amount of experience. Next, how do you set yourself apart? I firmly feel that the niche or area specialization approach is the way to do it. There's lots of generalists out there. I'm not saying you can't make it as a generalist, but when you're starting out from nothing or trying to build a business, you want to stand out as much as possible to the right clients. And if you go to a website and it says, I help working people, retired people, business owners, women, military, like whatever. Like you're saying you're everything to everybody. Like you're not standing
Yeah.
out in any way.
Yeah.
Versus if you say I help young tech professionals with equity compensation decisions, like that stands out. If your ideal prospect is that person and they're on Google, they come across your website, and within the first half second, it slaps them in the face and says, "I help young tech professionals with equity compensation." Like, oh, that's my pain point. Like, I'm a young tech professional. I have equity comp. I don't know how to decide on. You just stood out. So once you have that niche or specialization you want to focus on, you got to actually be good at that. Don't just say you want to work with them because that's where the money's at, but like be someone who can uniquely provide knowledge or service above and beyond what just the run-of-the-mill generalist can. That sort of be my step two. One pause there or keep running through these. There's a few more points come to mind.
Oh, come on,
Please,
like bring
please
it out.
do.
This
All
is
right.
golden.
Okay. So then once you have framed out ideally in your mind sort of like a prototype of who's your ideal client and why, what do they look like, where do they work, where do they live, where do they hang out in person or virtually, like what are their planning needs, pain points, concerns. Once you have that, you can then start to craft your marketing and branding and business development. So for example, if you work with people who are only 60 plus and you're trying to figure out where do I spend my time trying to market to them, don't go on TikTok, don't go on Instagram. They're simply not there, right? If you want to do the social media route, Facebook is where people who are 60 plus are. Or if you have a tightly defined local niche, you work with people who work at, I don't know, whatever, like the local university, you probably want to do boots on the ground stuff somehow. Get yourself into meetings of theirs, or at least whatever, seminars or dinners or something where these people who all live locally can come find you locally, wherever they're likely to be. And then your messaging of what you say, whether it's articles you write or podcasts or blogs or YouTube videos or Facebook group, like whatever, unless you know who you're trying to speak to and what their pain points and needs are, like you don't know what to talk about. Again, if you work with people over 60, like don't talk about paying down student loans. That's just not an issue for vast majority of people over 60. If you want to work with people who are 30, early mid-career, what are their needs? Saving for a house, paying down mortgage, saving for kids' college, paying down student loans. That's the content you should be making. Don't be talking about Roth conversions and Social Security. Well, Roth conversions maybe, but Social Security claiming, pension strategies, like no, that they don't care. So don't waste your time doing, writing, saying things that aren't relevant to the people you want to try to hire you as an advisor, right? And you can't do that unless you first start with who's my niche, who's my specialization, who am I trying to talk to, what they want or need to hear from me. And then once you do that, assuming your marketing and business development eventually starts clicking, people start hiring you through whatever your outlet was for speaking to them, then obviously serve them well, right? Be professional, be responsive, be thorough, be humble, be appreciative. And if you do that, you provide a good service at a reasonable price that's fair for what you provide, then in theory, this business should work really well.
Yeah.
Let
Joe?
me ask you a question.
Easy, right? Easy. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Simple.
I mean, you dropped so much important stuff, and to some extent, it's how I've grown NISM tutoring in a very similar way, where I've chatted with a lot of people who have encouraged me to niche down and figure out exactly who I'm talking to and talk to them directly.
Yeah.
In when I started in the business in '06, the name of the game was technical know-how. Be the best, right? Be the best. Know everything. Never walk into a room and you never want to be the person who knows less than everybody else. And to some extent it motivated me a lot. I wanted to know everything. That's why I wanted to get my CFP because yeah, my second meeting ever with a retired couple, the guy, he looks at me, and he starts laughing. He goes, "What do you know?" He's like, "I got socks older than you." And I was like, "Damn, that's a good
Right.
burn." And I was like,
Right.
it was, and they eventually became clients, but it took a lot. And I knew the way that if I walked in there as a normal 26, 27-year-old kid, and they're looking at me like, you have no problems, you drive a sports car, you put on a nice suit, good for you. And, the way we were kind of trained was have a big firm, you have a business card that says Smith Barney on it, it's going to help you get in the door. You have put a CFP.
Yeah.
I remember my mentor saying this. He's like, it's not going to close the business, but it might get you in the door.
Agreed.
And I remember that being like, okay, cool. Like at least somebody will go, at least you have some reason to be at least believable here. And I feel like you went in there, you did the best you can, you took care of your clients. And my mentor would always say, you take care of your clients and they'll take care of you and they'll send referrals, their friends, their family. And that's how we grew our business. Like I think social media changed all of that. And I think the
Yeah.
ability to scale and to reach people and to be virtual and live truly a wonderful life where you're not tied to an office or have to put a tie on every day is pretty incredible. I guess, a lot of that old adage is starting to go away with, people like yourself, especially because for all intents and purposes, you are a newbie still in this business. You're still under 10 years.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I would look at that and go, wow, you figured out something really, really good for yourself. So if I am now a newbie and I decide, hey, I want to go back and do this, and my technical know-how is there, how are you balancing this marketing effort in getting new clients and keeping your pipeline full with your technical know-how and serving your client? How are you balancing that day to day in your book?
It's manageable. I think in my case, largely because I'm very intentional with the business, wanting to keep it small. Like I said, originally solo, I wanted no more than 50 clients. I wanted the quintessential lifestyle practice. I got my 50 clients, and then there's still a lot of people reaching out to work together. So eventually, slowly added one other advisor employee. She got filled up. So just like repeating the process now, and
Yeah.
I've since added another advisor who's in the process of filling up on clients. But we are a business at the end of the day. You have to
Yeah.
be profitable. So you do have to balance working, it sounds cheesy, but working in the business versus working on the business type stuff, right? Always be as technically proficient as you can. Again, that's step one of my thing here. That's basic table stakes. To your point, you walked into a room at 26 with people who are 60 something. What do you know, kid? And I don't doubt the guy had socks older than you.
Yeah.
I think I might actually have socks that are, 26 years old.
No, he showed me. It's true.
They're all busted and holes and
Oh,
yellow.
holes and everything.
Yeah. But if you, I mean, in that case, you have a little more work to do versus someone who was 45, gray hair, and clearly just like checks a lot of boxes optically. But if you start evidencing your knowledge and what you can do, and the not yet client asked you something about Social Security and you knew the answer stone cold, they then asked you something about Medicare, you knew the answer stone cold, like your knowledge and how you speak and how you can think about and implement that stuff is going to pretty soon, pretty quickly trump your age and whatever perceived
Yeah.
lack of experience that someone thinks of you. Um, it's another just comment about like the niche and specialization thing. It could be daunting to hear when you're starting out. You may have the feeling like I need to be a generalist because if I niche down right out of the gates, I'm cutting out like whatever 80-90% of potential
Yeah.
at bats because I'm just ruling out like everyone else in the population that doesn't fit the niche. To which I say fair point, and that
Mm,
is true. So it is sort of a leap of faith. I think what more commonly happens, and this is fine, and I mean, I'm not the arbiter of who says you do or don't have to niche, but like a lot of people start out as generalist. They don't necessarily know yet what their ideal or preferred client type is or where they really shine from a technical specialization
mm,
perspective. So they start as generalists, they get a mixed bag of clients, and then the niche or specialization sort of finds them.
yeah.
It might be like, oh, I'm working with 8 people from company XYZ. I realize I know their benefits really well.
Yeah.
And so now, maybe you lean into that a little harder. So don't feel like you need to have a tightly defined niche right from day zero. If and when you do get to your niche, again, it greatly, greatly helps your ability to focus your time and energy and costs in marketing and branding and business development. But it is a struggle from day one to say, nope, rule out most of the population, talk just to your niche.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's
I'm
one.
sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's exactly what happened in my case. I remember I talked to Andy and Joe. I was telling you about it, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody told me about Andy Panko. They're like, "Oh, we love Andy Panko." I'm like, "Who the hell is Andy Panko? This guy,
It's
right?"
just
So next thing
clown.
you know, I,
Yeah.
I started Googling him, right? And I'm like, "Okay, like I think this guy's like." he's legit. And I reached out to Andy like out of the blue. I'm like, hey, like I'm a distressed advisor. I need to talk to you. And then he picked up. He's like, hey, we'll talk. And he said the same exact things. That it's kind of like I'm having like a deja vu of these conversations, what Andy's saying, right? And at that time, I was a generalist. I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to bring anybody in. But to your point, Andy, I mean, it's we're somebody who wants to kind of branch out and do something on their own. If you're confident with just going right into your niche, then do it, right? But
Yeah.
if not, you'll eventually figure it out. And I did. I it took me 2 years to finally be like, okay, you know what? I'm the retirement tax strategist for people over the age of 50. That's what I want to be. I
Yeah.
I tried doing the whole, the compass, the equity comp. I have experience in it, very good experience in it, but I just decided not to pursue that route, basically, right? So
Now, are you glad you've since developed a niche, and do you have any regrets about how you got there and or not doing it sooner?
no, I think that path was important because I don't have that FOMO or
Yeah.
thinking that, I could have done this while I'm doing this. It's kind of like, nope, I tried it. I like what I'm doing here. And then plus I also like the type of clientele that you'll meet. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to work with this type of client. I prefer to
Yeah.
work with this type of client, right? So
Right.
it's kind of like dating. Building your practice is like dating. You got to go through the whole dating process to figure out what you want you know
Yeah.
um
And for everyone listening, like you're all going to find your own ways and strengths. Like hopefully what we're discussing here is good info and do take at least some of it to heart. But just because something worked for me or worked for Ramen or worked for the next person down the street doesn't mean that's the path that will work for you.
Mm.
Whether it's marketing or just who you want to work with or the way in which you grow your business, like you're going to find whatever works for you for whatever your unique reasons are. Maybe you're a strong presenter in person and you're killing it at dinner seminars. I would be terrible at that. Like I just cringe at like the pat in the back type environment, right? Walking around shaking hands, patting backs.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your strong suit, right? That could be
Mm.
your thing. So different strokes for different folks.
yeah.
I think being a generalist is also exhausting for very little money.
Mm.
When I
Yeah.
started teaching, the best client was the one who was willing to pay me. So, and that was kind of the way that I did it. Was like if somebody needed help with an exam, I did it. And, I could teach up to like 10 or 12 FINRA exams and the CFP and all three. And then when I started niching down, the quality of what we were doing, spiked, and it just made
Yep.
my life significantly better to niche down. And I think it's kind of there is definitely it's scary to niche down because you're like, I'm leaving all these people on the table. What am I doing leaving money on the table? It's foolish to say no. And I think, from a quality of life standpoint and the people you are serving get so much more out of it. They're much happier. That I think we have to learn how to say no in this business to saying,
Yeah.
I can't help you, but I know who can, and I think that's the better way to do it.
Agreed. And it all sounds good in theory again, but in the early days, like you got to keep the lights on, you got to put food
Yeah.
on the table, you got to pay the mortgage. So I like what you said. The best client is one who pays me. Like you may have this super clear vision of my niche is going to be people X, Y, Z, but if it's going to take you a year to actually get some traction with that niche, you better make sure your business is still around in a year,
Yeah.
right? So like
Yeah.
you may need to take on whoever
Yeah.
initially just to get some revenue and keep the business running. But
Mhm.
yeah, so do what you got to do. Like I try to stay away from dogmatic advice. While I do firmly feel a niche is the way to go, it's hard to do right out of the gates and easier said than done. And similarly, other folks would be like a lot of people starting firms will ask about side hustles. Like, is it
Mm.
okay in the slow early days where I don't have any clients in my advisory business to do a side hustle, whether it's Uber or teaching or like I don't care, whatever. Some folks are like, absolutely not. You got to be 100% in your business. Focus, focus, focus. Like, shut up. Like, you do what you got to do. You got to survive. You got to, again, pay for mortgage, pay for the business. If that's what it takes, so be it. Now, don't get to a point where your side hustles are taking away from productive use of time. If a prospect reaches out, you're like, I'm sorry, let's meet in 2 weeks because I got to go do whatever. I got to drive Uber for the next 2 weeks. Like, that's
Mhm.
bad. But as long as the side hustle doesn't interfere with the trajectory of the business, then you do what you got to do.
I agree with that. I mean, tutoring was my side hustle that became the main hustle.
Okay.
So,
Right.
and it, when you're looking at, and for me, it was a very uh, intricate set of circumstances, but I was doing way better tutoring, and I was like, maybe this is the better path. And I feel like we all come to those points in our business. But I want to talk about something with you, Andy, that's been on my mind in terms of, even the way that we run our business, which is our bedside manner. How has your bedside manner changed from when you started the business in 2019 to now? How has it evolved? Do you feel like you talk to clients differently? Do you feel like that's actually permeated into your messaging, in your videos, in your social campaigns, and things of that nature? I'm not a liar. I told you that was going to be another awesome video. We really hope that you enjoyed part 2 of our conversation with Andy Panko. Now, next week, we got our third and final part of this series. And what we're going to talk about is some bedside manner. How Andy talks to clients, how I used to talk to clients, how Raman talks to clients, how it evolves over time as your technical know-how goes up. How does that bedside manner changes, and how Andy incorporates that into his practice. We're also going to talk a little bit about Andy's social content and how he started building his practice and some of the things that he looks for when he's hiring people at his own RIA. So we hope you enjoyed this and looking forward to seeing you guys back here next week.